Hey everyone, this is Christian Heimel, host of Caught Listening. Thanks for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
You're listening to Catch Up, an official news production of Public House Media.
Today is July 2nd, 2020, and it's time to catch up on the news that you need to know about.
Today we're helping you catch up on a new strain of swine flu found in Chinese pigs that may have pandemic potential.
Comedian legend Carl Reiner has passed away.
Iran issues a warrant for President Trump's arrest.
And kids in New York showcase artwork in Times Square for essential workers.
We're your hosts, Dan Koenig
and Catherine Smith. Welcome to Catch Up.
Researchers in China have discovered a strain of the swine flu virus in pigs that may be able to jump to humans, putting health experts on high alert around the world about another potential pandemic. Here to discuss this more is Catch Up News correspondent Bryce Burge. Bryce, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us. Can you just give us a little background about what this virus kind of looked like? What's its backstory?
Well, this virus is a little bit older than what most people think of when they think of the new viruses. And it's a different type of virus than the big one that's going around, and the type of coronavirus. That's a CoV-2 kind of virus that it has a different kind of genetic makeup than this one, which is a variant of the H1N1 swine flu. And so this flu itself is going to have a different protein structure. It's going to have a different adaptability than some of the other ones that we are dealing with now with coronavirus, but it is going to be similar to the swine flu that has happened in the past. Even some of the more avian flu kind of ones, it's going to have that same kind of protein structure inside, which will allow this virus to bind to and infect in tissue cells located in the human airways. This is still very much an influenza type virus. But what's different about this one is that it's not the same as coronavirus. They're two very different types of viruses.
Health officials have obviously been aware of this. What has the response been from the experts?
I would describe it as being very comfortably in the peripheral of the eyes of the pandemic and medical fields right now. When you look at this situation, it's been around since 2016, but it was firmly identified as a virus in part of the efforts to make sure that something wasn't going to be coming on the horizon. And of all those potential viruses that may happen from a jump from animals to humans, which is usually how it goes around. It doesn't usually start with humans. It starts with the animal and then jumps to it, which is why you have swine flu, like in this case, because it comes from pigs. The coronavirus that we're dealing with now came from a bat. And so those kind of things, you can identify the animals and start taking a look at them. The thing is that even though the antibodies were found in the human caretakers of the pigs that had this scenario, they weren't identifying anything that would immediately think of it as causing another pandemic. Why people are starting to be very careful about this, though, is that while pandemics have happened, and while pandemics in the Eastern worlds have happened a lot more than, let's say, Europe or the Americas, is specifically one at a time. You don't have these things happen a bunch of times in a row, or you have 3 or 4 pandemics that you're worrying about all at the same time. Again, even though that they're close enough to be kind of considered flu-like symptoms between what's going on with coronavirus and COVID-19 compared to this H1N1 style of swine flu, it doesn't usually happen, and there's nobody in the world that's really prepared to deal with 2 pandemics going on at the same time. So the fact that it's identified as a threat is what they're looking at. They'll be paying attention to it to try to knock it off as early as possible and make sure that it doesn't spread. But at this point, the main focus has to still be on COVID-19 and the coronavirus.
Definitely a situation to keep our eyes on in the near future. Bryce, thanks for taking the time to discuss with us again.
Happy to be here.
Famed actor, writer, and director Carl Reiner passed away Monday night from natural causes, according to a statement released by his family. Carl was born in Bronx in 1922, starting his career in acting early as a teenager. He joined the Army in 1942 as part of his Signal Corps and a year later was assigned to an entertainment unit, touring the South Pacific as a comedian. After the service, Reiner started his career in television, most notably with the acclaimed Your Show of Shows in 1950, writing and acting with the likes of Sid Caesar, Neil Simon, Lucille Callan, and Mel Brooks.
After Your Show of Shows ended, Reiner began writing his own show, which eventually became The Dick Van Dyke Show, becoming one of the biggest TV hits. In the 1970s and 80s, he continued to branch out into movies as a director. In 1979, he directed The Jerk, the first movie for Steve Martin. Later in life, he moved back towards acting, most notably in the Ocean's 11's movies, as well as guest roles in TV shows like Frasier and Two and a Half Men.
Over his career, Reiner won a total of 11 Emmys, as well as a Grammy for Best Comedy Album in 1998. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960 and was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame in 1999. His son, Rob Reiner, has continued in his father's footsteps as a director and actor, and the two became the father and son duo to have their foot and handprints on a concrete slab at the Grauman's Chinese Theater. Carl Reiner was 92.
Iran has issued an arrest warrant for U.S. President Donald Trump as of late Tuesday over the drone strike that killed a top Iranian general in January, Qasem Soleimani. Here to discuss the outcome of this warrant is Catch-Up News correspondent Kamari Darrington. Thank you for joining us today, Kamari.
Thank you guys for having me today.
Definitely. Since the initial drone strike back in January, what can be said about the decision made by the Iranians regarding the ordered arrest warrant for President Trump? Is this going to have any effect on the U.S. or strictly the Trump administration?
Well, it looks like the Trump administration is not taking this too seriously. Iran had asked Interpol to look into issuing red notices to the 30. Trump was one of 36 people that were on the list of warrants issued by Iran. Tehran Attorney General Ali Akasi Mayer said that the persecution would take place once Trump's term comes to an end, whether that be after this election in 2020 or after the 2024 election. But Interpol has said that's under Article 3 of their constitution, it is strictly forbidden for them to undertake any intervention or activities of a political, military, religious, or racial character. So at this point, it's looking like is that it's just Iran that is either trying to force a prosecution or perhaps just trying to put it out there that they are going to prosecute the Trump administration. President Trump already has his own issues, especially with the Southern District of New York, with potential cases against him once he leaves office. But at this point, it looks like Iran is pursuing this, but it doesn't look like the Trump administration or President Trump himself is taking this too seriously. The strike was pretty much a consensus among many of the military leaders here in the United States. The Pentagon has labeled General Soleimani as a terrorist. The Pentagon has deemed him responsible for the deaths of hundreds of U.S. troops in Iraq. But he is widely revered as a hero in Iran. So obviously Iran is going to be pursuing this at some point after Trump is no longer president.
Well, as the elections are slowly inching closer, what can we expect out of Donald Trump in this response to this warrant made by Iran? And do you think this will have any effect on the upcoming elections?
I don't think so. Just because there's many people in the United States actually agreed with what the president did. They may not have agreed exactly with the tactics used or the reasons why Trump attacked the general, but after finding out that Soleimani was responsible for deaths of many U.S. troops in Iraq and to stop future attacks, many said that this was a necessary evil. I think this just goes to show you the Trump's foreign policy is being questioned at every single turn because of his knee-jerk reactions to most of everything that happens when it comes to people saying negative things about him, or in response for example, the ban of the China travel ban as it relates to the coronavirus. just things that as far as Trump's foreign policy is concerned, as he wants Russia back along with the G7. A lot of people don't agree with that, especially in the wake of alleged bounties from Russia to Afghan troops to Afghanistan, as far as the U.S. troops are concerned. So just things just causing the question this another situation that Trump is dealing with as far as his foreign policy is concerned. But I think as far as with the election, I don't think this will have any impact on the election per se, because again, persecution won't even take place until his term ends.
And with that, I think that only time will tell to see how this ends up turning out regarding the elections and post-presidential campaign of Donald Trump. So thank you so much for joining us today on Catch Up.
Thank you.
Tune in more on this topic following @Time for Catch Up on social media on this developing story.
3 kids got the surprise of a lifetime when their artwork was shown on the giant billboard in the center of Times Square in New York City yesterday in support of frontline workers to thank them for their service.
In an effort to promote Shutterfly's #CreateThanks campaign on Twitter and Instagram, Shutterfly chose designs from more than 450 artworks submitted by children from across the country.
As New York City begins its stages of reopening, essential workers continue to rely on mass transits during the pandemic, of which is Shutterfly's sole decision to choose 2 of the city's busiest commuter hubs to display its uplifting messages of thanks made by children in an effort to bring a little joy to their commutes.
Shutterfly is also delivering thanks directly to the hands of those who are on the front lines by distributing over 500 care packages to medical staff at Mount Sinai and Elmhurst hospitals and giving more than $750,000 in donations as part of their For Good initiative.
The chosen pieces of artwork will be displayed on the Jumbotron of Times Square until July 10th. Thanks for catching up on today's news with us. I'm Dan Kotnick.
And I'm Catherine Smith. Please make sure to catch up with us again tomorrow.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
We appreciate you listening to Catch Up. For even more content, follow Catch Up Digital on social media. Just search for @Time for Catch Up.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the stories we covered today. Just use the hashtag #PassTheCatchup on social media.
Catch Up is an official production of Public House Media.